Broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
Before we get very far into our next story, we do have a warning for you tonight. What you're about to see and hear may not be suitable for children. Tonight, take a walk in their world.
Transpicuous news, connecting the dots between the lines.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. Today is going to be the gold special. We're going to talk about all that is shiny and glittery and supposedly so valuable. But is it? Gold, gold, gold. Everything is all about gold. All we hear about in economics, in finance, in history, it's all about gold. So today we're going to take a deeper look at all of this. Now, I'm going to backtrack here for a second and say, here's one of those moments where I come clean. I have sometimes a problem keeping in mind that people watching this, watching Transpicuous News, even people reading Removing the Shackles articles now may not have the historical background of the stuff that I've been reporting on for the last few years. And sometimes I make assumptions that people know what I'm talking about or have already had the whole rundown of, like I said, the historical aspect of everything I've been reporting on. So I've been kind of called out on it a few times when we have big conversations in groups. And then people say, really? I didn't know that. And I'm like, you didn't? Oh, shit. Okay, let me backtrack. So I'm going to try and cover a lot of information here. And I'm going to go from the assumption that people watching this don't know anything about gold and hopefully cover all the bases on this. We have some major issues we want to deal with. Now, the things we're going to talk about today are going to be talking about gold, the gross manipulation and fraud of the gold commodities market. This is a major one. Government repatriation of physical gold holdings. How gold is stored and inventoried in the Fed. Non-delivery of gold futures, which is the paper gold versus actual physical possession of gold. China hoarding gold and the new Shanghai Gold Exchange, and most importantly, the true value of gold. Okay, so because each and every one of these points is all interlocked, I'm going to try and keep this as linear as possible, but I can almost guarantee, since I'm just talking off the cuff at the moment, that I may have to backtrack now and again. Okay, first of all, right now, big news. One of the biggest news stories that came out just recently was that Holland, the Netherlands, just brought 120 tons of gold back from New York Fed. Brought it back to Amsterdam. And when that happened, there was a lot of people who were like, hey, wait a second, how come Holland gets their gold back, but Germany can't? Why is it that Holland gets their gold and Germany doesn't? And neither did Ecuador and several other countries who tried to get their gold back out of the Fed. So we're going to take a look at this. One of the basic pieces to this that a lot of people don't understand is how gold is stored. we tend to make assumptions based on what we know. So we know if we take 5 $20 bills into the bank and we say to the teller, hi, I'd like to deposit this into my account. And the teller takes the $100 and they go and they put it off in a vault. And if I come back the next day and I say, hi, I'd like to withdraw $20 from my account, the teller just goes, randomly grabs a $20 bill and says, here you go. Now, because that's how we see a lot of banking, a lot of people don't understand that that's not the way it works with gold. A lot of people have assumed, and I've had multiple conversations on this topic, that, Fort Knox, for example, is one great, big, giant gold repository. And basically, people come or countries come, or companies, and they go, here, take my gold, and it just gets chucked into here, and gets noted down on the computer, okay, Germany has deposited 1,500 tons of gold into, name it, vault. And then when it comes time to get it out, you just go into the vault and randomly grab out gold bars and say, oh, here's your 1,500 tons back. It doesn't work that way. When countries buy gold and they have fully like the proper physical gold in their possession, gold bars, just like in this picture, these gold bars are not all the same. And it is a very important point to understand. Gold bars are inventoried and are serial numbered. They are fully assayed to micro manage exactly what metals are in there, what the blends are, what the mixes are, and it is tracked. Basically, if a gold bar was to fall out of the sky and someone was to pick it up and take it to the authorities would be able to look at that gold bar and tell you exactly where that gold bar came from, what country it came from, who owns it, because gold is highly tracked. Now, so after the Second World War, and I'm not even going to get into the historical of this, basically, okay, I will, really shortly, the US conned all the rest of the world into saying, after the Second World War, your money's not safe. You better leave it with us so we can look after it for you. So, because America had never been involved in any of the world wars always happened over there. For the most part, mainland America was untouched. So, they convinced all these countries, here, give us your gold. And the main repositories that countries divided their gold up into for security reasons, where they would keep usually a percentage in their own country. Then a percentage would go to New York. Canada was another one, in London, England. And some of it went to France and places like that. But most of the countries split up their gold holdings into different places, the idea being spread around the security of it. Oh, great. Sorry about that. We'll get rid of that. So what happens is this. These places came and they have their gold and they shipped it off to the States and it was put in the Federal Reserve, for example, in New York. And it gets put into a special vault and only that gold is in that vault. So basically, when you hear stories like this, and it's like the Dutch want to bring 120, and they did, it's not that they want to, they actually shipped 120 tons of gold from the New York Fed back to Amsterdam. It's because their gold was in their vault. Now, when Germany wanted their gold, guess what? There was no gold in their vault. So this is how it worked. And I'm going to get this again. There's going to be people who are going to outcry and say, oh, that's not exactly. Okay, I'm giving you the short version of the story. In October 2012, important date. This has to do with another investigation that's very much ongoing that I'm doing at the moment. So keep in mind, October 2012, Germany suddenly decides, hey, we'd like our gold back. All 1,500 tons, please. and they sent a message over to the Federal Reserve in New York, and the Fed said, yeah, no, we're not going to give it to you. And Germany got real pissed and said, okay, well, we at least want to come in and do an inventory on our gold. And the Fed said, yeah, no, I'm not going to let you do that. And Germany got more pissed, and Germany sent some people over and said, we want to see the gold. So the guys at the Fed basically took them to a room that would probably look much like this one. And there was a table, and there was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 gold bars on it. And they were like, there's some gold, and no, you can't touch it, and you can't get any closer to look at it. That's just there's your gold. And needless to say, they went back to Germany and they weren't very happy. So later on, they sent someone else, and they said to the Fed, we want to see our gold. And the Fed took them down to the vaults and basically showed them a vault behind closed doors. They weren't allowed to go in. They weren't allowed to look, see, touch, smell, taste, lick any of the gold. They were just shown a room full of gold. They said, that's your gold, and no, you can't have it back. Well, 2020, you can have it back now. The reason they gave them the date 2020 is basically the states sold all their gold. Well, let's not say sold. They lent it out, and they weren't going to get it back until 2020, which is why they can't give it to Germany. They can't just go into the vaults and pick out any old gold bars and give it back to Germany, because then Germany would have hardcore proof. Yeah, excuse me, this is not my gold. So when you see this happening, and you see certain countries like Ecuador and Germany not getting their gold back, and there's been multiple countries who've actually demanded their gold and it's been refused, a lot of that is because the gold isn't there anymore. Now, the U.S. has lost all its gold. This is, how do you prove something like this? At this point, you really can't, because the Federal Reserve won't allow anyone to look at the gold vaults. Now, I got into a lovely argument with a source of mine way back in, would have been June, I think, of 2013. And this is a man who would be well capable of knowing this information, put it that way. And he said, oh, there was a full assessment and inventory done on the Federal Reserve gold gold holdings. It's all been done. And I said, really? Awesome. I want to know who did the assessment, who did the inventory, who signed off on it, how much was there, and what are the holdings? And he was like, I can't tell you. They won't give you that information. I said, well, then if they don't, then it didn't happen. If you can't tell me the name of the company who was hired to go and do an independent inventory on the American gold holdings, then it didn't happen. And he argued up and down and said, oh, it did. They can't give you that or security. They can't give you that information. Well, okay, we're taking a little sideline journey here. In June of this year, they pressed the button, as I always call it, press the button to pull this new financial system online. And guess what? America didn't have any gold to support their assets. They lied. They completely lied. They didn't have even a quarter of the holdings they said they had, and so that put everything to a grinding halt immediately, because if you're going to a fully asset-backed system, such as Basel III, which is a crock of shit, but anyway, if you're going to a supposed, purported, fully asset-backed system, you have to have the assets, and the U.S. didn't have any assets. So they couldn't even use Germans' assets as their assets, because they would be known as soon as you pull it out that that's not your gold. So let's go back to this. So we know how the gold is stored and inventoried. We know the governments are trying to repatriate their physical gold holdings. And I will tell you that there is much, much more involved to Germany repatriating their gold holdings. This goes, again, very deep into the investigation that I'm doing at this moment. Basically, in 2009, Germany said, to hell with this, with the euro. in the European Union and was ready to walk away because Germany's been basically supporting the European Union for years. And they started printing Deutschmarks again. Now, while that was quasi-common knowledge within the Intel world, what wasn't common knowledge was the fact that the Deutschmarks they were printing was going to a fully gold-backed Deutschmark. And there were several countries who were going to go in with them. This is a very, very important piece of information. This happened in late 2009, early 2010. Without getting into too many details at this point, a certain person, when certain people were made aware of the fact of what Germany was about to do, which would have destroyed the US dollar as the world reserve currency, would have destroyed the euro, would have just wiped it all out. A person was set up to file some documents that would stop them. And they did. And it did. Stop basically all the currency section of central banks came to a grinding halt instantaneously. And so the people who were behind Germany going to a fully gold and asset-backed system lost control of the ball of what they were trying to do, and they didn't like that, so they sent in someone else to change that first document and create it to their own purposes, what they wanted to have happen. In early 2013, 188 or 189 countries all signed on to going to this supposed Basel III compliant, fully gold-backed currencies and revaluing all the global currencies to being fully asset-backed. And that caused a bit of a clusterfuck, pardon my English, in the commodities market. Now, let's get something straight. The commodities market is one of the most highly manipulated and fraudulently controlled, especially precious metals markets, of all of them. Gold, silver have all been manipulated for beyond decades. So this is not something new. What we're seeing going on now in the commodities and the gross manipulation of the commodities market at the moment, it's not anything new. What is new is the fact that it has reached such epic proportions, and the situation because of it has gotten so bad that even the mainstream media is being forced to report on a lot of these things that are going on. One of the big things for the last year especially is non-delivery of gold futures. And this is a major problem when all of a sudden if someone in, say, Holland says, I'd like to order, say, 1 gold bar worth X, whatever the dollar amount is for that weight. And the central bank says, yeah, yes, not a problem. We'll have it delivered for you next month. The next month shows up and they go, yeah, that gold you ordered, we can't give it to you. And the reason why is because they didn't actually order it. The vast majority of gold trade that you hear about in the news has nothing to do with physical gold. It has nothing to do with actually tangibly having gold. It has to do with a piece of paper that says you bought gold, but did you really? And it's been all over the mainstream. All you have to do is literally do a search on the internet for manipulation of gold, non-delivery of gold futures. It is rampant right now, all over the place. There are companies, people, and countries who are coming forward and going, like, where's my gold? I ordered it. You said you bought it. I have this nifty piece of paper that says I owned X amount of gold, but where's my gold? I'd really like to have it, like, here. Now I'm going to put it under my mattress because I can get a shotgun and keep it safe that way. So we're going to back up for a second here, and we're going to talk about Basel III. This is, I've talked about for years, but especially the last 2 years, this new financial system that they are trying to create at the moment. Now, first off, it's not a new financial system. It's basically the exact same system we have now. It just looks a little different. They kind of spin doctored it, gave a new coat of nail polish. That's about it. When you look at the gross manipulation and the fraud and the outright theft going on in commodities markets, especially precious metals and oil, of course, and the currency markets, which right now there's just lawsuits all over the place, and they're so manipulated. How can you base a currency on the asset holdings of a commodity where the numbers are completely manipulated and imaginary? Really, that's what it comes down to. It's imaginary. So you will have those who are really doing the raw, new system, new financial system. It's all going to be rose-colored glasses and champagne, and it's going to be lovely. They like to say to you, oh, well, all this is going to change. The stock market's going to change. The commodities market's going to change. The Forex market's going to change. The central banks are going to change. And I can tell you right now, they're not. If these guys who are controlling all of this shit show, if you think they're going to just sit and walk away from the ridiculous amounts of money they make daily, supposedly, on gold or trading currencies, etc., they themselves manipulate the markets so that they can make the money. And if you think they're going to walk away, other than going out and arresting every single one of these guys, good luck with that. It's not going to happen. Okay? So what we're seeing right now is a setup of a new financial system. And while they're talking about it's going to be gold-backed, asset-backed currencies that reflect the true asset value of a country, the reality of it is it's a crock of shit. Okay? We have countries, especially for the last 3 years, hoarding gold, going nuts. The stuff that has been going on, I mean, and it is being reported by the mainstream media. You just need to actually read and be able to read what they're telling you. China got caught last winter paying Mexican drug lords to ship them illegal iron ore. Okay, Mexican drug lords are shipping, instead of selling cocaine, they're selling illegal iron ore and shipping it to China with gold buried inside. So if that's the kind of commodity assets that this currency is supposed to be based off of, one's got a question. Really? Really? I don't think it's going to fly. Now, I do honestly think that we are about to see massive changes. And these changes, I've said for a long time, the global currency revaluation, et cetera, is going to be the final straw that makes everything just go. So I do think that this new financial system that they're pushing into play at the moment is slavery 2.0, and it is massive corruption. Oh God, I mean, Karen Hudis, purported World Bank lawyer, and her video she put out a few days ago about this new global currency gold-backed RFID chipped. Really? First of all, the woman has not a clue how international currencies work. I've listened to her speak about this a couple of times. The very idea of one world currency coming out should tell you where she's coming from, regardless. We're talking about gold. Oh, I'm going to, just because I've already set it up, I will say this. I do believe that when this new financial system gets put into play fully, and it is already in play right now, it is already online, it is already moving forward. When it becomes fully in play and it collapses, and it will, I do think that there are those working behind the scenes who know that this is what's going to happen. They know that when this new system comes online, it will collapse. And they are waiting to bring in actual and real changes at that moment. I have no proof. It's just the feeling that I'm getting with things that I'm listening to. There are people waiting, and they know what they're doing, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Now, the one thing I want to talk about when we talk about gold, and this is a major important point. We have been taught our entire lives that gold is the value. We have been taught in school by our parents for not just generations, for hundreds of generations, that gold is what we want. Gold is this shiny, wonderful metal, and it apparently is miraculously makes everything all better if you have gold. And I'm going to sit here and say very firmly at this point, bullshit. I want to ask this question of who said gold has this value? Where does this entire mythological ideology that gold is valuable, where does that come from? History shows us that civilizations have risen and fallen in their search for gold. And yet, gold is pretty much a useless metal. It's shiny and it looks pretty and it makes some nice earrings, apparently. Gold is non-corrosive. It doesn't corrode the way a lot of other metals do. It has that going for it. And nowadays, we use gold in electronics. And funnily enough, we were just taking apart a broken computer, and Nick looked at me and was like, oh, look, here's gold on these little tiny pins. We know that's gold electroplating. But there are multiple other metals and elements out there that are way more valuable in way more things than gold is. Copper, look at copper, seriously. The world runs for copper, yet it's considered just crap, really, by most people when they talk about metals, markets, etc., etc. Silver is also very valuable. It's used in a lot of things. Gold is used in just about nothing except for wearing around your neck or keeping score of how much you have. They're like poker chips, basically. So whoever came up with this idea that gold is valuable and that this is what we should base a global financial system on? I don't know, but if I had a time machine, I'd really like to go back in time and talk to them, because I'm going to tell you they had some ulterior motives. It's not even a question. So here's the thing. I keep talking to everyone saying, watch the gold, because this is very, very important for people to understand that when they go public and they start talking about Basel III, people need to be educated enough to know what the background to all of this is. China has been hoarding gold for a few years now. China has the largest gold hoardings, Freudian slip, the largest gold holdings, purportedly of any nation except the US, except that, of course, the US doesn't have any gold, so probably China does have the biggest holdings. They just set up the new Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is going gangbusters at the moment. So it's time to really watch how all these things roll out. I hope that I've been able to give people a little bit of insight into the background of gold, especially the government repatriation and how it's stored and inventoried and commodity manipulation, etc. I hope that I've managed to help you guys with that. If you have questions, though, feel free to email me or Skype me, even better, because I try to ignore my email as much as possible. But you can always get me on Skype. My Skype name is d.breaking the silence. Email is d@removingtheshackles.net. I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, I will do my best to answer it in a future show. And that's it for this moment. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. And I will be talking to you all again very, very soon on a few other special report subjects above and beyond the shiny gold medal. Have a good night.
Transpicuous news, connecting the dots between the lines.